All right, Peter, we're going. How are you?
Good, good.
Thanks
How
for
are you?
coming. I'm good, thank you. Thank you.
That's good. Well, thanks for having me.
No worries. You got to be way closer to the mic there. I
There we go.
apologize.
No worries.
How's life?
It's good. Busy.
Is it busy?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
I heard that what do you call it? You call it a dojo is where you train?
yeah.
What do you call
You
it?
call it like an academy, I guess.
An academy. Well,
Yeah.
I heard it was complications with the academy right now because of COVID and everything that's going on. So it's
We're
good that
pretty
you're
fortunate.
busy.
Yeah, I Nova Scotia's fortunate. We don't really have any cases, so
Mm,
we're training. The 50-person number is good. We're functional with that. So that's
nice.
good. It's paying the
Where
bills.
where's your location exactly? Well, everyone's had to kind of renegotiate or resettle. Like I'm working out of my home now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Everyone's kind of had to adjust a little bit, but
Yeah, I wonder what that's going to do for commercial real estate in another year or two, when a lot of companies realize that they can still function with maybe half their office space, people working from home.
I know all my buddies are working from home now. I got buddies that work at an office downtown, and they'll go in, they'll take their desk and chair, bring it home, and they're saying they're getting like twice as much work done from home.
Well, they're saving commute, time. Geez, probably
Yeah,
better for the environment. Less,
yeah, absolutely. There's tons of things that happen with it.
less traffic.
I was saying on the intro that, in my opinion, MMA is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. When it comes to the technical aspect of it, I don't know a whole lot of it, but I know when it comes every Saturday night and there's a UFC event on, I'll definitely buy some pay-per-view, grab a couple beers, and watch them with my friends because, it's very exciting stuff to watch. And your life, you are invested in this sport you call mixed martial arts. How did you get involved in it?
Oh, geez, that'd be back. I think my first exposure would be to Hoist Gracie. Again, I'd always been fascinated by martial arts, but watching the very first UFC and seeing what the reality of it was very intriguing. So I started training right after that.
How old are you?
Oh, then I think 27
And where were you living?
in Halifax.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So someone told me you went to New York and trained, though.
I did. I traveled to New York and trained with Renzo Gracie. But like repeated trips to New York, and to Brazil to learn jiu-jitsu. I've been to Thailand for Muay Thai, New York and Cuba for boxing. Just different places to learn different things. Always trying to improve our knowledge.
So what's the benefit of going around the world trying to learn different aspects of the sport? Do people know certain elements of the sport when you travel to Thailand compared to Brazil?
Well, Thailand's Muay Thai, kickboxing.
Okay.
Brazil's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So Brazil would be the mecca for Jiu-Jitsu, and Thailand would be the mecca for Muay Thai. So that's where you're going to get the best in their respective arts. Cuba's fantastic for boxing. New York's got great boxing. So, you try to go where they have the best stuff to learn the best stuff.
So what do you take pride in the most bringing back to Halifax here when you teach at your studio?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't think I really look at it like that. I just think it's always great to learn new things.
Yeah.
And to try to stay on the cutting edge. It's just fun to travel and see how good other people are.
Yeah.
If you stay in your own little world, your small pond, you may think you're at a certain level, but there's always developments in other places, and the benefit we have now being kind of a world community is we can certainly get the best of the best from everywhere.
What I've heard from Renzo Gracie is he's a master at what he does. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not too quite sure, what he does and how he's good at what he does, but his name has come up more than, probably 10 times on this podcast. Could you tell me a little bit about him and what you learned from him?
Well, Renzo started as a jiu-jitsu champion in Rio de Janeiro. And he comes from, he's directly descended from the Gracies, from Elio and Carlos, who originated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So he grew up immersed in it. He would do Jiu-Jitsu matches. He would do challenge matches, no-gi fighting. And in the early days, Jiu-Jitsu, especially with the Gracies, was much more associated with no-rules fighting than it was with the sport of jiu-jitsu.
Sorry, say that again. No rules fighting?
Mm-hmm, like MMA, but back in the early days, there were actually no rules.
No refs?
No referees, no rules. There was no doctor. There was no gloves. People bit. They broke fingers. They headbutted. It was just really basically reality combat. And they wanted to prove that their style, their system of jiu-jitsu was the most proficient at winning these fights. So that's what Renzo kind of brought. He came to New York early on in his career, and he had already been a jiu-jitsu champion in Brazil. So he came and started fighting MMA. I think he fought in and won World Extreme Fighting because his cousin Hoyce had been fighting in the UFC. His cousin Hickson was fighting in Japan. So when another event came up, it gave Renzo an opportunity to fight. And that's the style that we started with. Our jiu-jitsu was much more MMA based
Okay.
than jiu-jitsu based. And now it's kind of separated. We have, our MMA jiu-jitsu kind of was, merged in kind of one thing. Now we have strictly MMA training and we have strictly jiu-jitsu training. And, there is some crossover still. But, the gi training is not, not like the Gracie used to do. You punch and kick and, things like that while you're wearing the gi.
When Gracie went to New York for the first time from Brazil, was he already popular, or did he have to build his name up in America?
Oh, no, he certainly had to build his name up in America. Renzo, I first went to his club back in, 1995.
By yourself?
No, I went with a group of people that I was training up here.
Okay.
And actually, the very first time I went, I was a white belt by myself. You're right. The next time I went, I was with a group. But his dojo was a little room, probably not much bigger than this room here, and he shared it with a kung fu club. So all along the edges of the room were like swords and spears and little. I remember there was suits of armor, and I remember I rolled into one and an axe fell next to me or something like that. So,
Did you cut yourself?
No, it just fell next to me. But it was certainly, the funny thing is, I'm gonna be honest. For the most part, a lot of things like kung fu and that, I just don't really have a whole lot of respect for them.
Okay.
And for someone who was a great fighter and a world champion like him to share space and have to watch them teach what I consider, bullshit.
Yeah.
He's very humble about it. And again, I understand. I think kung fu is more of a philosophy than a fighting system, and I'm sure there are some good kung fu people out there, but I think for the most part, most of them wouldn't be able to, fight very effectively. And it comes down to the fact that some of these martial arts are more sports than fighting. So you can get stuck. I call it the emperor has no clothes. You're learning the stuff, and students and teachers will blow smoke up your ass. And you think you can fight, and you really can't.
Bunch of yes men.
And you see that so much. And people pay money. You see, academies where the instructors throwing chi bombs at people and they're falling down, and because of that, the emperor has no clothes syndrome, I call it. They actually fall down. They believe this is happening, and I see it. My gym. I'll be teaching a technique of takedown, and my student will fall. I'm like, "What'd you fall for? I didn't do anything yet." But he thinks he should fall because
that's annoying.
And so I'll say, "Just let me," But if I think that's where sometimes these martial arts have lost their way, And for instance, I love judo. Judo's a great sport, and judo had an issue with wrestlers coming in and doing single and double legs, and giving the judo players a hard time. So judo has certain rules to make judo functional. Like you have to stand up, you can't really bend over, you'll get penalized, things like that.
Oh yeah.
So rather than address the single leg, double leg, and becoming proficient, they said, "Oh, you're not allowed doing that." And I think that weakens judo. It doesn't. So you've taken out something that's probably extremely effective for a takedown in a sport that relies on takedowns. But because they weren't really proficient at it like wrestlers were, rather than adapt, and they could have adapted, they could have been just as good and done their thing. But they said went the other way, and it's like, no, we're gonna take that out. And I think that's what weakens martial arts.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, just my opinion.
Huh.
Don't hate me, judo people. I love you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't mind. That's all right. We'll get a couple judo people on here, and they'll have a couple requests back.
Yeah.
I've played team sports my whole life, hockey, lacrosse, and I've always not felt comfortable, but going into a new situation with a team, I've always enjoyed. I could never imagine going into a situation like going to New York by yourself, coming from Nova Scotia, going into a gym. How do you deal with that at a young age, going to a different place in the world by yourself, meeting a bunch of strangers and then trying to learn something. Did that come natural to you, or was there a little bit of fear in you?
Actually, going to New York was pretty easy. I mean, Renzo's a very nice man. He's very welcoming. You feel like you've known him all your life when you meet him for 5 minutes. You know, he says, "Welcome, my brother." You know, he's always so friendly, and he's really nice with everyone. And it's genuine. I've seen him be nice to people when no one's looking. You know, that's the thing. And I always have a saying: don't judge people by how they treat you. Judge them by how they treat people they don't need. And
Ooh, that's a good one.
Renzo's really good with people. He's a good person. So I felt very, very welcome. I was invited. I had the privilege to roll with a world champion in Jiu-Jitsu. We had Carlos Gracie Jr. up here, who would have been Renzo's instructor. And one of his world champions was with him. I think he was a 3-time world champion at that time, and I was a blue belt, and I rolled with him. And I had a very good roll with him.
Sorry, I got to interrupt you. A roll just means
Meaning,
if you're feeling each other out. You're
well, no, it's jujitsu. So we start in a jujitsu match, and your goal is to submit the other person.
Yes, okay.
So you're trying to get dominant position, get a submission, that type thing.
But are you going 100%?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you're rolling. Okay.
But I certainly was. And I had a very good roll with him. He tried a lot of different sweeps from me. I was able to counter a lot of them. And eventually he swept me with a sweep I'd never seen before. And he went over to Carlos Gracie, and he was speaking Portuguese. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't know what the hell he was saying. And Carlos came over to me and said, "I would like you to go to Brazil and represent Canada at the World Championships. I'm inviting you down." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." And I was only a blue belt then. So I left, and I think the World Championships were like 2 months later. So
No. Were you in good shape at the time?
Geez, back then I didn't really know. I was still green. I didn't really know. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anything. I didn't know. If I would have known, who knows? I mean, I know so much now compared to what I knew then.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about conditioning. I didn't know anything, as far as strategy goes. I didn't even know the point system really.
So how do you I won't lie to you. My knowledge based on a lot of things that I know in this world are based on the internet. YouTube, watching things. This podcast was brought to you by YouTube. I figured out how to do it by watching other people do it.
Yeah,
How do you learn back in the day? It's unreal.
You know what? That's what I always tell my
Talking to
students.
the mic, sorry.
I would lay in bed if I had a problem that I didn't have an answer for. And sometimes it'd be like 2-3 weeks laying in bed at night, my eyes open, thinking, and then maybe an answer would come to me. And often in everything, combat sports is no exception. The answer is the answer for the time. It may not be the best answer, but it's an answer. And so because the right answer that you think is a great answer today is, it's the B option tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Right? As things evolve and get better. So it was a very long process to try to learn things. And I mean, we became very tough because we fought a lot. We became very hardened. We didn't have a lot of knowledge. So I mean, I remember, if I wanted to learn something, I'd take a trip to New York, spend $2,000 or $3,000, take private lessons, which back then were $100 US an hour, and try to learn things. I'd go to Brazil, do the same thing, and then bring the knowledge back, and try to make the guys around here better. We would buy videotapes. They would offer like VHS cassette tapes back then.
Yeah.
So you might spend $400 on a 8-tape series, which might have 50 moves on it. And sometimes you'd find a gem where you'd learn 8 or 10 great moves. You're so excited. Sometimes you learn one. So you spend $400 to learn one move. So yeah, it was slow. So when I went to Brazil for the World Championships in 1998.
Wow.
I didn't really know anything. And the thing was, I was going there. I called Carlos Gracie Jr. I didn't get an answer, and it's getting closer. I called him again, didn't get an answer.
You're sweating.
So my flight's booked, right? And I'm getting ready to get on the plane. I'm flying into Brazil, into Rio. And finally I get an answer back from him and says, "I'll meet you at the airport." So I arrived. The airport's huge. I don't speak the language. I stumble outside, all confused, and there's Carlos. And I hop in his car, and he drives me from the airport into Baja.
Wow.
Suburb of Rio. And I mean, he's a crazy driver. Oh, man.
Is that your first time in Brazil when you got there?
What's that?
First time in Brazil was in
First time,
1998. Yeah.
And he took me to the hotel, put me in a room with a couple of Australian guys who were also competing at the World Championships.
Awesome.
And we went and trained at the club every night, and it was just crazy. There was 100 crazy Brazilians in the club at a time every night, and it was really a huge eye-opening experience. The guys there were fantastic. Jiu-jitsu was at such a high level, and I mean, I learned things back then in my travels to Brazil, and I remember thinking it was magic.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just certain techniques. I'm like, wow.
Oh, you've never seen before.
Never
Yeah,
seen before.
yeah.
And now, like, it's just standard basic stuff to me now.
Yeah.
Brazil was that was a bit of a, and going to the World Championships, not speaking the language, not knowing anybody, not having a coach,
What a learning experience, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just going into something not blindly, but definitely on your toes.
Yeah, and I had a great experience. I mean, I went in and I won my first fight by submission. I lost my second fight on points, and I remember there was two German guys.
Christ. Sorry about that. Everyone listening, we have new tenants upstairs, and they're moving in. My bad. Sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
No worries. There were two German guys, and they come over and they congratulated me. I think we should go help them.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what they're doing. Putting a bed
They were
together.
so happy for me. They came up, they hugged me, and I was like, I lost. They're like, we've been coming here for 4 years. We haven't won a match yet. That was amazing. They were so happy. And they're coming all the way from Germany to Rio. So
Wow.
it made me feel better about winning the first one and losing the second one. And it was fun. It was a huge experience.
Have you been back to Brazil since then?
Oh, I went back several times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What's Brazil like culturally wise? Food, the people, the weather. What's it like?
Oh, the weather's amazing.
Yeah. Beaches, I hear, are unreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the people are really, really friendly, super, super friendly. I mean, it can be dangerous if you're not if you're careful, you go to the wrong places. Luckily, I had a tan. My ears are a little messed up, so they thought I was Brazilian, so people left me alone.
Let me see your ear.
Mine aren't bad, really.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I've got some guys at my club whose ears are just,
Cotton.
hideous. Yeah. My ears are still, almost pristine, but enough that I look like I might have been Brazilian because it was dark and tanned and that. So it's funny. We have a funny story. My partner at the gym, Kevin Taylor, and I went to Brazil to train, and Kevin had a friend who owned a security company, and they happened to be doing security for the Rolling Stones concert there in Copacabana, which is the largest concert in history, I believe. I think it was 1.5 million, 2 million people, something like that.
In Brazil?
In Brazil, right on the beach. It was a free concert.
Do you got a second, or just want to look this up?
Yeah, look it up.
AC/DC?
No, Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, Brazil. Do you know what year?
Ooh, jeez.
Oh, there it is. There. Oh.
Yeah. It's
Oh, wow.
on Copacabana.
Look, is that it?
It was huge.
I just had an image of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Pope. Nonetheless, I get it.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
How many? 2 million people?
1.5 to 2 million they estimated. I mean, it was a wild experience. Kevin worked security in one VIP section, which is in front of the stage, stage left, and I was in stage right in the VIP section.
No.
So there was some famous people there: Mick Jagger's wife, Owen Wilson, some other people like that. And,
Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
What year was this?
I can't remember what year it was. It'll show you on that. It's funny. I'm also there's
2012.
I think National Geographic did a documentary on the largest concert, and in one of the scenes in National Geographic, they run right by me, and the camera zooms right into my face as they go by. So someone called me up and said, "I saw you on National Geographic."
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I actually saw that clip.
Wow.
But I mean, it was wild. That concert was crazy. I mean, we had the crowd started. It was really hot, and there were people coming over the fence. Like I remember, I took a little kid who was unconscious, about 8 years old, over the fence, and took him to the paramedics. And it was just wild. And the crowd started chanting. They had a reporter standing on top of the little. There was a little tower in our section, and he was up there doing a news report. And the people in the crowd were throwing water bottles full of sand at him. So he's doing his report, and he's ducking his water bottles are flying over his head.
Why are they throwing bottles at him?
It's just a crowd mob mentality, I guess. And they were chanting. I asked there was a guard with me with a machine gun, Brazilian. I asked him what they were chanting. He said they were chanting, "Fuck the VIPs." Because we had a nice big open section. We were crammed like sardines. So anyway, after the concert, going back, everybody has to go through this one little pass between. I think it's between the mountains and the
Talking to
beach.
the mic, sorry,
between the mountains and the beach, there's this little pass.
Yeah.
And the police are stopping people, and I guess they're robbing them. So they're taking money from them, you know, fining them for this or fining them for that. And so the taxi driver says, "You don't speak Portuguese." "No, I'm full of Portuguese." "No." I'm like, well, we don't. So anyway, they got Kevin and I out of the car, and Kevin has, for some reason, a big gold chain. He's got a wad of cash on him.
Yeah.
And so they get us out, and the cops they're talking to me in Portuguese. I'm like, "No, I'm fala Portuguese." And he goes, "Fala Portuguese." I'm like, "No, I'm fala Portuguese." So he pokes me in the chest with his machine gun. He says, "Fala Portuguese." I'm like, "Man, I don't fucking speak Portuguese." So anyway, searches us, takes Kevin's cash out, puts it on top of the
No.
car, and puts the stuff on top of the car. He's talking to us, and then he let us go and didn't take our money. And the taxi driver's like, "I can't believe he didn't take your money. I can't believe he didn't take your money." So the only thing we can think of is we had two things going for us. We had a platinum pendant from the concert, which meant that we were perhaps maybe important. I don't know. But perhaps the other thing was we had Gracie Baja tank tops on. And the chief of police, apparently, or the deputy chief of police, trained at Gracie Baja. So one of those two things saved us from being robbed.
That's a crazy story.
And one of the Australian guys I knew said he'd been robbed 3 times with the police there. He was driving a rental car. They kept pulling him over and asking for a certain permit he didn't have. And they'd take his cash right there.
No way.
So yeah, it was pretty corrupt back then. I mean, I don't know if it still is now, but it was wild. I met a black belt at Henzo's club in New York. And he was a SWAT officer, and he said he'd be flying in a helicopter, and someone would shoot up at him from one of the favelas, and he'd take his machine gun, and he'd be like, bah, 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 bah. He goes, "Now with the human rights, we can't do that so much anymore." So,
And he was dead serious.
yeah, he was dead serious, yeah. So, I mean, that's what I mean. Brazil's beautiful. The people are friendly. It's fantastic. But at certain times and certain places, you could find trouble if you wanted to.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like that.
The people, like, you're never going to find friendlier people than Brazilians, and nothing but good things to say about being at Gracie Baja and dealing with Henzo and Henzo Gracie New York and those academies.
When I go to Brazil for the first time, I'm going to buy a Gracie Henzi t-shirt and just walk around. It'll
Get
be
a
good.
Gracie Baja or Henzo Gracie, and that'll put you in good stead. Henzo's, I guess, pretty good friends with the president right now too. So of Brazil, yeah.
Where is he right now?
Henzo, he travels the world. He's probably in New York right now, but he travels the world. Like he's, like if you go to the Abu Dhabi, the Crown Prince and Henzo are close friends.
Oh, yeah.
I think he bought a house for Henzo to live in when he stays there when he goes to visit.
What the hell?
And I think it's also the national sport. Jiu-Jitsu is a national sport of their country now, so everybody in school has to take Jiu-Jitsu. I think Henzo's a gi supplier for them all. So he's,
Everyone has to take it?
Yeah, it's like a mandatory course.
I've heard that in some European countries, like you have to do 1 year in the military, something like that. It's like a mandatory thing.
In some countries, it's more than a year. So,
yeah.
Again, they're going to have people who are fit, confident, have self-defense. It's going to put them in good standing. It's funny with all the issues with the police that we've been having with police excessive force and things like that. I worked in security for a long time and have been in a lot of skirmishes, we'll say.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I had to do when I took over and was in charge was fire a lot of people because they weren't competent. They were just big. And even though they were big, their first reaction to a confrontation was fear. And without skills, when you have fear, your first reaction is you go from 0 to 100. So your goal is you want to hurt the person before they hurt you. So I started training staff and giving them skills and turning them more into like a concierge, someone to.
I was a concierge.
Yeah. You fix people's problems.
I do. I'm ahead of their problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can see the problem before it comes.
Yeah, you know what the issues are going to be.
Yeah.
And so that way you get customers to come back. You beat them up, they never come back. And you get legal problems and, all kinds of other issues. So I wanted these guys to be friendly and nasty if they had to be, because we dealt with 6,000 customers a week, and you certainly deal with people who are looking for trouble.
Yeah.
And you have a bad element, and you have to be able to deal with that. So a lot of the police have zero training. And when I mean zero, I mean with the little bit of training they do, it's next to nothing. And so you put these guys in a bad situation. They deal with the worst people in the world. And sometimes they don't know what the person they're dealing with is a good person or a bad person. And like anybody, the reaction may be to go from 0 to 100 and hurt people. So having training will go a long way to fixing that, being competent. And I mean, I train some police officers, trained the club, and they've got a great deal of skill. And they're like, man, everybody should do this. Everybody in the force should do this.
Can everybody learn what you know, though?
Absolutely,
Yeah?
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing about martial arts. Like I say, things like Kung Fu being a crap sport. You can put someone who's a natural fighter, put them in Kung Fu, he'll still be effective. You put someone who's a natural fighter and put them in Jiu-Jitsu or MMA, and they're going to be amazing. And you can put someone who's got zero talent in Kung Fu, and they're going to be a shitty fighter. And you put someone who's got zero talent in Jiu-Jitsu or MMA, and they're still going to be effective. They're not going to be amazing, but they'll still be effective. Because the nature of that sport is it's designed to make you effective. There's no smoke being blown up your ass. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's tested in combat every day. I had a Kung Fu instructor come to me and say, I want to do this, want to do that. And I'm like, well, why don't you come and compete? He goes, oh, we don't do that. It's too deadly. How the fuck you know if it's deadly if you don't compete?
Yeah.
Anyway, and again, sorry, Kung Fu guys.
I don't know any Kung Fu guys. You're not defending me. I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And my goal isn't not to offend, even though it's probably what I'm doing. It's trying to educate, I guess.
Okay.
In my humble opinion. So I think if in a lot of states, training in Jiu-Jitsu is mandatory for police forces. It's for special forces, for Navy SEALs, things like that. They're making Jiu-Jitsu mandatory training, and I think that's the right direction. And that's what happened in Abu Dhabi. It's mandatory in school.
That's cool. I really like that. I never thought that would be a thing, but now that you bring it up, it does kind of make sense. Just giving everyone maybe a couple years training of, what do you call it, self-defense, or just just a little bit of knowledge on how to handle yourself.
Absolutely. It would go. I mean, I had a friend years ago who owned a little store. He was being extorted by this big guy. The guy would show up and take things and threaten him, and he was just a young fellow. He was like 20 years old, and he was terrified. And he came to me, and I showed him three things. I showed him how to shoot in, I showed him a takedown, and I showed him mount, and that was it. And the guy came back and stood up. The guy challenged, took him outside, shot at him, took him down, mounted him, punched him, 10 or 20 times, he said, until the guy gave up. And the guy never bothered him again. He came to me. He was so excited. The next day I saw him. His knees were all cut up. His knuckles were all busted. He goes, that guy came back. And he was so excited. He was so happy. That was an hour lesson. And,
What the fuck?
Yeah. The guy knew nothing, which is big. And here he was, being a bully, basically. And
so if you, can you, if we're not, touching each other right now, but could you tell me maybe what the first step is to not going from 0 to 100 to assessing the situation to making a situation calm down?
Well, again, so there's a lot of different situations.
Can I bring one up, and then you can okay, so let's go. Let me think of a situation. Okay, I'm at a restaurant with my girlfriend. There's a really drunk guy that's sitting a couple tables over. He's being obnoxious. My girlfriend's sitting next to a window, and she's cold, so she closes the window, and this guy wants the window open. And now there's an altercation, and now I got to step in.
So is he getting up and coming to you? Or
he's getting up, and he's going to the window and opening it, saying, I want this window open, but obviously it's my girlfriend, so I got to stick up for her. So what am I doing?
Well, okay, your first step would be to go to management and say, listen, we'd like the window closed. And you can avoid the situation. They can deal with them.
Okay.
However, if it does come down to you and him standing facing each other, first of all, if you have skills, drunk guys are like fighting toddlers. They're completely, it's not even fair, So
let's say he's sober then.
Okay, let's say he's sober and he's being a dick.
Okay.
When you're talking to him, you have to be able to assess a threat, and you can judge a threat by body language, things like his foot position, what he's doing with his hands. Is he making fists? Is he turning a little offset to the side? Is he clenching his jaw? Is he raising his voice? Is his face red? So you can judge by his anger and whether or not he's going to be a threat.
So if the things that you just mentioned, would that guy be a threat? A guy that's his feet
absolutely,
that's a threat?
If he's showing those signs of aggression, then he's a threat. And one of the things you tell fighters is that you want to feel out process and things like that. However, if a fighter, your opponent comes at you in fifth gear and you're in first gear, even though you may be much better than him, he can still win. He can still beat you. Okay. If you get caught at a position by someone who's using overwhelming force suddenly.
Yeah.
So most fights last 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Street fights.
This is so cool.
Yeah, it's if this guy assumes that stance, then you should take a defensive stance as well. And one of the things you have to decide is which tact you're going to take. So a lot of people, one of the things I found was that certain people being nice to them gave them bigger balls, they got nastier, meaner. And in certain situations, you have to be the big dog. So you got to let this guy know that you're not afraid of him, and that'll go a long way. And, being calm, talking to him, and letting him know, sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is when some guy's threatening you, saying, listen, I know how you think this is how it's going to go, but that's not how it's going to go. You're going to lose, and when you show that confidence, often they wilt, they back down, they walk away, and you can avoid problems.
Okay.
So and beyond that, it becomes how much skill do you have to back up what you're going to say. And I've been in situations where I've had a lot of fights, and 99% of the time, again, it's like beating up toddlers. 1% of the time, I fought guys who knew things, who were good, knew jiu-jitsu, could wrestle, knew judo, were in great shape, were incredibly strong, things like that. And so many of the fights, like I fought a guy one time who was about 350 pounds, a big, huge, powerful, muscular guy.
Like not in real life, like
in real life, yeah. We were inside the bar, and he was being asked to leave and refused to leave, and he came out carrying 4 security staff, literally, like he was walking with them on him, carrying them.
No.
And so I told him, go back inside. I thought I'd reason with the guy, and he just charged me. He ran me into the coat check wall, and we heard the whole wall crack and everything. And so I slipped my hands into a lapel choke, a cross choke in his jacket, and almost put him to sleep. His knees buckled. He went limp, and I talked to him. I was like, "You gonna relax?" He struggled again. I put him limp again, and so they called the police. The police arrived, and like 4 or 5 cops came in the lobby, and they were like, "Let him go." I'm like, "Guys, you may want to cuff him first." Like, "No, let him go. We got him. I let him go." And he went wild. I had to choke him again, and then they cuffed him.
Were the police pissed at you?
No,
they didn't care. They're just like, "Thanks for doing that."
Yeah, well, they were like, that's just a situation. They don't know what they're dealing with, right?
So then, why aren't you training police? Like, why isn't that a thing? Why aren't you being paid by?
That's the police hierarchy has a certain entrenched or system in there where they have training, and some police officers who've done it, who I've talked to, who I know, say it's not that good. And that's
the training that they're getting now.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and it's being polite.
Well, then why aren't they coming to you? Why don't?
Well, I don't know why they don't have to come to me. They should
but
go to someone.
People like you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to do it. I often do it for free, as a matter of fact. I'd be happy to do it.
Well, it seems like right now more than ever, there's a demand for it. You could be making some. Not that the end goal is to make money, but it would help. But
well, I mean, if it saves lives, and I think it's it's on the side of the angels. We're helping. Society. So that's why I said, listen, we'll do it for free. Send them over. We'll train them. We'll go over there. We'll train them, whatever you like.
So do you have police officers that stop by every now and then?
We have police officers, regular members that we train. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we got one guy who's amazing. He's a beast.
Yeah.
He's got mad skills. I'd hate to be a criminal facing him, I'll tell you that, because he's not going to have to. He just twist you up and put the cuffs on you, and he's not going to have to shoot you.
But that's what you want, isn't it? That's the end goal, is just to get you in cuffs in the back, not dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and learning how to choke people, saying don't choke people. Learning how to choke people is the secret, not choking people. I can't tell you how many people I've choked. Thousands of people unconscious in fights. Literally, probably, I don't know, 1,000 people, maybe more. It'd be hard to tell.
I don't know if I could do that.
And the thing was, the choke was there to protect me and them. So I didn't have to resort to hitting them or breaking their arms or legs or anything. I just choked them unconscious. And it's, if you do it correctly, if it's a blood choke, they wake up in a few seconds and they're fine. You don't choke their air, or you're going to kill them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who don't train don't know the difference. And,
I guess
so these people wake up and they're just fine, and they, most times they don't want to fight anymore. And I haven't had to punch them. I haven't had them punch me. So it's that's the benefit. That's the practical application of martial arts.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie not the Art of Self-Defense? It just came out maybe last year. Just give me one sec here. Essentially, it's about this kid who, he's not getting bullied. He's a grown man, actually, but he's skinny, he's a wimp, and, men bully him at the office, at the grocery place, like just everywhere he goes. And he essentially walks into this dojo, and this trainer helps him. It ends up being a crazy twist at the end, but apparently the trainer said that this is a common person that walks into a facility that just needs help, not manning up, but just, a little bit more confidence in his everyday life. Do you find a guy like that walks into your place every now and then?
It's funny. Most of the time, that's young teenagers that we get.
Yeah.
Kids who are being bullied. And I'll give you 2 quick instances. I talk a lot, I know. So.
Oh, that's what the podcast is for. We want you here to talk.
We had kids that get bullied. We come in and we teach them. And often the fact that we teach them, their confidence ends the bullying. They don't have to hurt anybody. They don't have to hit anybody.
So it's a mind game before a physical
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Once they become confident, it's almost like the sign that I'm a target comes off your back.
Okay.
And the bullies go to greener pastures, somewhere that's unfortunately not able to project that confidence. Now I had a student who I'd been teaching, and I received a phone call from the principal of a school saying that he had thrown a student down, and the student had wasn't hurt but was traumatized, and that she would like me to eject this kid from the academy. So I was like, okay. I said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to look into this, and I'll talk to them, and I'll get back to you. So I spoke to the parents, and the parents told me that this kid had been bullying her son multiple times, and he'd the kid had been very, very patient. And finally, when the kid grabbed him, he tossed him, which is what we teach. We teach throws and things like that. Threw the kid down. Didn't jump on him or anything like that. Just throw him down. That was the end of it. There was no teacher there. There was no one there to stop it or see it or anything like that. And you can't watch all the kids all the time. So when the principal called me back and was saying, I'd like this kid dealt with, I was like, this is what happened. And I said, in my opinion, we've done the community a service. I said, that kid's been taught a life lesson. He was bullying. If my student, who's a very good kid, had been walked away, he would have continued to be bullied. This guy would have gone on to bully other people. Perhaps if he's been tossed on his head, the bullying will stop. And that may be not a popular opinion. It's not,
I think it is.
Perhaps politically correct or anything like that, but that's life. You'll be a victim until you aren't in a position to be a victim, because unfortunately there are people out there who victimize people. Now, the kid that's being a bully doesn't know any better. He's not may not be a bad person. He's not an evil person, but that helped him develop as a person on his road to becoming a better person. And that's what self-defense will do for you. In another case, I've got a guy who's in his 70s who came to me and has some problems.
70s?
In his 70s, having a problem with his neighbors. His neighbors bullying him and threatening him. So he wanted to learn self-defense. So he's in his 70s. I couldn't believe it.
Do you have a cane or like?
No. He's been training with me off and on.
Is he still coming every now and then?
Since COVID, he hasn't been back, but he was in training, and he's a nice fella, and I have a hard time understanding why his neighbor who's old like him would bully him, give him a hard time. He's not a big fella or anything like that.
70. Wow.
Yeah. I felt like saying, let's go over and let's talk to this guy. I'm sure we can work things out. Sit down with the guy. Go, man, this is a nice guy. What are you doing? Give him a break. Jeez. So a lot of things you can reason out, but again, sometimes the reason comes with the confidence that you're not too worried about something, right?
Yeah.
And if you can give that to kids, even if someone is a bully, you teach them how to fight. They realize that, wait a second, there's some bad people out there. That helps them with their bullying. They stop bullying. Yeah. So there's some people out there who can kick my ass.
That's really cool. Not that I like, but I had a buddy that went to a UFC event once. It was at the Bell Center, Montreal. It was GSP. Though GSP won. I think. Who did he beat? You probably know. He's a shorter guy, bald. He's on the show with Dana White.
That'd be Matt Serra.
Matt Serra,
Matt
exactly.
Serra's a Renzo Gracie black belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've rolled with Matt Serra.
Have you?
Yeah, he's a monster. He's good.
Okay, well, nonetheless, I got to finish this story.
Yeah, sure.
It's not even a story, but when he left the Bell Center, he just said everyone was wrestling. Everyone was in the streets just wrestling their buddy, just on the sidewalks wrestling. That's how I feel right now. After just talking like this, not that I want to get in an altercation, but I don't know. I just want a punching bag in here or something. Yeah. Just to, it's an addicting.
Yeah.
The
academy is only about 10 minutes from here. You can drop over and train.
Well, I was gonna say we got the camera. If you don't mind, if you got a day, I'd love to just come and film and just try something. It would be awesome.
Yeah, you'll have fun.
What's Matt Serra like to roll with?
I rolled with him way back when he was a purple belt. And, I tell the story when I'm teaching this butterfly sweep, because I was in his guard and he was trying to butterfly sweep me, and I based in my head and I was hopping on one leg trying to counter a sweep. And he hopped on his foot in a complete 360 and swept me, and Henzo was standing there. And Henzo goes, very nice, Matt. I'm like, shit. Swept me. But he had some mad skills. I remember getting for a fight he was getting ready for a fight one time, and I was there training. And I think this was that little was like, I don't know what, there was like a little kitchen area, and he was in the kitchen area. It's like, so Henzo's like, it's a far cry from the gyms he has now and the success he has now. But that's when he was starting out, and Matt was a purple belt then, I think, fighting an MMA fight. And I think there was only, I forget how many of us there was there, maybe 12 or 20 or something like that. But we all went side control of Matt, and he did the same escape on all of us over and over and over again. Like, I think we went through the lineup 2 or 3 times, used the same escape. We knew what he was doing, but we still couldn't stop it. So
Really? Why? Just because of his pure strength?
well,
Like,
no,
he just...
not strength, just a skill. He was very skilled at that technique, and I don't know. I didn't know the skill levels of the other people going with him, but I didn't have the skill to stop it.
So what in your sport? What would you rather have, strength or skill? Because it seems like it would be skill. But in my mind, I'm like, if this guy's strong, he'll be able to conquer the other guy.
No, absolutely skill. Yeah,
skill.
Strength doesn't. Like I was doing wall work with Danny. He's a big guy in my club, and Danny's powerful.
Yeah.
And he's trying to hold me on the wall, and I was able to escape, and circle off, after through various tries. So. Because I know more than Danny, I was able to do that. I'm not certainly more powerful than Danny. Now, the problem is once Danny learns all these things, he's going to squash me like a bug.
Yeah, there you go. You don't want to teach him.
Yeah. Oh, no, I still want to teach him.
Okay,
we
good.
get better. Getting squashed is the best way to get better. He squashes me, I'm going to have to learn something else, right?
I guess so.
And he's a brown belt already, and he's a 270 or 75-pound brown belt who's physically powerful. So, yeah, there's only, but I mean, the thing is, he rolls with certain people. He's really gentle with them, but when he wants to turn it on, geez, he can probably squash your head like an egg.
I don't want to meet this guy. Or I don't want to roll with him.
He's a super nice guy.
All right, maybe.
He'll be gentle. He'll be nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you know the levels of belts? Like, can you name them off, like how it goes, the ranking, or is there too many to name right now?
No, it's very simple in Jiu-Jitsu. It's white, blue, purple, brown, and black, and then you go through your various degrees.
What's a degree? Like a stripe on a
Yeah,
belt?
stripe on a black belt. Yeah.
So what's the highest stripe that you can get on a black belt?
I think when you get to 10, you get a red belt. So it becomes
on the
time.
black.
So after you get your black belt,
Yeah.
in 3 years you can get your first stripe. 3 more years you get your second stripe. 3 more years you get your third stripe. 5 years you get your fourth stripe. 5 more years you get your fifth stripe. 5 years after that you get your sixth, which I think is your red and black belt, or a coral belt.
Yeah.
And then 7, 8, 9, you get stripes on that belt, and then you get your red belt.
What are you right now? You're
in April I get my 4th stripe.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, it's as you get older, your body works less, but your knowledge hopefully goes up. And yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to be like the traditional instructor in the dojo who's like got 9 stripes on his belt and he's so fat he can't move.
Hey, that's a good point. That's good. I like that. That's a good mentality.
Yeah, certainly we've got some young guys who are amazing. Who are gonna kick my ass, twist me into a pretzel as we go along. But I still want to be able to at least train.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
How does someone give you a black belt? Like, who's the person that gives it to you? Like, how does that?
I got it from Renzo Gracie. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. He had a big ceremony down there. There was, a few hundred people. There was celebrities and TV stars and everything, and there was, several people got their blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, and my partner Kevin Taylor and I got our black belts. It was 2007, I think, 13 years ago.
What a moment.
Yeah.
How did you cry? Like, holy shit.
No, I didn't cry, but I was pretty happy because, every time I wanted a belt, I had to travel to New York. And you never know how things are going to go. You think you're at a certain level, and you think you're going to get a belt, and you don't. So you spend, a week or 2 down there training, spend $1,000, and you come back with nothing. Like, you learn, you're happy, but you're going down with the expectation, okay, am I ready for my next belt? And everybody who goes to that goes, am I ready for my next belt? And back then I had nothing to judge it by. I had no other belt above me to say, oh, I'm as good as that guy. I had to go travel and see if there was someone who was better. And even then, I remember I was down there, Kevin and I were down there, and I was a purple belt. Kevin and I were both purple belts. And I was rolling with a black belt, and I'd beaten him several times. And he was about 6'1", and he was probably in his 40s, and I was like, in my 30s.
Yeah.
And Kevin goes, oh, man, you're going to get your brown belt for sure. And I thought, yeah, I should get my brown belt. I didn't.
Why not?
Well, I wasn't beating him because I knew more than him. I was beating him because I knew enough, but I was really athletic and strong and explosive and, all those factors. So I wasn't beating him just because I knew stuff.
So you weren't beating him on your skill. You were beating him on your athletic ability.
Some skill, but athletic ability.
And Renzo knew that.
And yeah, he had the intelligence to know that. I think I went down next year and I fought a brown belt who's still there. And we rolled. We had like we rolled a whole bunch. We had a lot of stalemated rolls, and he ended up submitting with a move called a 10-finger guillotine I'd never seen before. And I got my brown belt. So I beat a black belt a bunch of times and got no belt, and I lost to a brown belt and got my brown belt. But looking at the skill level, he could say, okay, he knows what he's doing now. So he's at that level. And that's what we judge it by, because we'll get some young guy who can go, he's got enough cardio to use all his strength for the entire time. He's explosive, knows enough, and maybe he gives a higher belt a hard time, but he's not using the skills and the techniques. And if he meets someone who has those skills and techniques, who's as athletic as him, he's going to lose. So it's a balance.
How long did it take for you to figure that out when someone's using their strength?
Getting the brown belt, I figured out the concept.
Cool.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a long time figuring out that concept, probably too long. A little,
Yeah.
But now we recognize that. And there's some, little things that change. For instance, one of my students was Ralph Hollett. I don't know if you know who Ralph Hollett is.
Yeah, it's Patty's brother, right?
Pat Hollett's brother, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, Patty used to train me in hockey.
Yeah. Well, Ralph was a fantastic fighter. He was Canadian boxing champion. He was Commonwealth boxing champion. He was Canadian kickboxing champion.
Wow.
2-time tough man champion. He was a fighter.
Yeah.
And we trained him in Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. And I gave Ralph his blue belt. Now, Ralph may not have been a really technical blue belt with a certain amount of skills that I would consider a blue belt would require.
Mm.
But a couple of factors. He was effective. He could hang with blue belts, right, doing what he did. He was also older. He was in his 50s. And, you have to, I take that into consideration from, if you start training jiu-jitsu, there's a little bit of a curve for older athletes. So while if Ralph had been in his 30s, I may not have given him his blue belt.
Okay.
I would have demanded a higher.
Yeah.
And there are other things like the recreational athlete, as opposed to the competitive athlete. If I have a guy who's competing high level in jiu-jitsu, I'm going to make sure he's at a certain level before he gets his belts. Whereas the recreational athlete will get his belts on a recreational level. So,
okay, I see what you're saying.
So, like, you may be a blue belt for 3 years. So you may be at this end of the spectrum as a blue belt, or you can be at this end of the spectrum as a blue belt.
Also, there's a spectrum on each belt. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah. Someone who's a blue belt for a month isn't going to beat someone who's been a blue belt for 2 years. That would be rare. Right? But you may, be a recreational athlete, and you are qualified. You're in that spectrum, right? But the competitive athlete who's that blue belt is going to be at the far end of that spectrum.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You ever get people pissed off at you that you don't give them their belt when they think they deserve it? And you have to explain to them.
I'm not going to lie, it does happen. I hear through the grapevine from other people, some guys like pissed off that he hasn't gotten his belt yet.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if that's a failure on my part or a failure on their part, because, sometimes you can overlook things. It does happen.
Yeah.
But I would never go to Henzo and go, hey, where's my belt?
Yeah, of course not.
That's not going to happen. You get your, and the good guys, they don't complain, they don't say anything. They get their belts when they get them, and they're happy when they get them. And when they get them, they know they deserve them.
That would be such a mental battle for me, just in thinking I deserve something, and because one person thinks I don't. Oh, it wouldn't drive me nuts, but it would make me work harder, but it would push me.
Yeah, I mean, like when I beat that black belt, and I beat him several times. And I mean, when I say I beat him, I mean I beat him positionally. Like I was able to sweep him, he wasn't able to pass my guard,
and that's how you want to beat
things
someone.
like that. Yeah, when I didn't get my brown belt, I was, confused. I wasn't angry. I was confused. I didn't think, fuck those guys or anything like that. I was just like, geez, what's going on here? And then when I got it to I just went back to training, went back the next year or the year after, and got it. So that's. I wouldn't get angry over it, and I don't think you should get angry over it. Now, having said that, I remember a story of Henzo had a guy at his club, Zeed, and Zeed's a super nice guy, and Zeed was training at Henzo's club forever. And I remember we were down there one time, and Zeed had been there forever, and he's got a belt on that's kind of looks like a white belt, but it was actually a blue belt that was so old that it was gone white.
Oh, you wash it. It's like baby blue.
Yeah. And someone said, Henzo, when are you going to give Zeed his purple belt? Henzo looks at me and goes, you not a purple belt? Why you not say something? He goes, how long you been a blue belt? He goes, I don't know, 5 or 6 years.
That's amazing.
So, that, and he never ever uttered a complaint or, a word. He's still training, the belt.
It's the love of the sport.
At the end of the day, I'd rather be there's a saying, I'd rather be a blue belt beating a purple belt than a blue belt tapping to a white belt.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Am I technically a white belt right now?
Not until you train.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I get in there, I'm a white belt.
You're a white belt.
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
and
That's
you'll be a
not
white
bad.
belt for 2 or 3 years.
I don't know if I got the patience.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows? I might pick it
Oh,
up.
It's incredibly addictive.
That's what I've heard. Like,
Do you like chess?
I do like chess.
Well, this is
I love playing it.
Physical chess. So all this is
See, I don't think of it like
you
that.
do
though.
this, and he's going to do that, and I'm going to plan for this, and he's probably going to do this or this or this, and then I need to do this or this or this, and so that's all it is. The chess game. You're having the best answers available to the most probable responses you're going to get from your application of force.
All right.
Yeah.
There is a part of me that I know when I walk into your studio for the first time, I'm gonna be sweating. I'm gonna be like, "Holy shit, here we go. Relax."
It's so funny because I have a good friend that trains there, Tim, and he said that I don't want to get this wrong, but he said that he thought about going there for several years before he actually showed up, and he said he was just kind of intimidated, or he
Yeah,
didn't know how it was
it's
gonna go.
intimidating.
And then he's like, man, it's like family. It's so nice. Everybody's friendly, and he says, best decision, made in a long time.
All right.
So, and he's a fantastic asset. His wife trains there, his kids train there.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic people, and we're really happy to have them.
Yeah.
And that's what we look at it as, like a big family. Everybody tries to help everybody, and when you first come, you're not well known in the family, but after you're there for a while, you become,
All right.
that's what we hope for anyway.
I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan's podcasts, and he's a big fan of it. He does it every day. Not every day, but he's in there in the studio. And he said it really helped him with surpassing problems in his everyday life. So if he was in a role with someone and he failed, but he knew what he had to do to beat that person the next time, it almost helped him in his everyday life, business scenarios of trying to surpass, in this life, there's certain steps to this life to get to the next step to where you want to go. And he said jiu-jitsu helped him in such a large sense, because there's no hiding, is what he said. I'm pretty sure there's no hiding. If you can't pretend in the sport.
Yeah, you can't go in and you're gonna go in and you're gonna win or you're gonna lose. It's just the way it is. It's not like you can. It's if you have weakness in your technique, it'll be exposed. Someone will expose it. And that's the best thing. So you want to roll to see where you're going wrong, and you want to roll to see what you're doing right, and then you want to teach the people that you beat the things that you beat them with, so they can counter it. So you need to come up with new things.
So is the sport still being innovated? Is the sport still?
Absolutely.
People are still figuring out new moves,
endless. I learn new things every day.
Really?
Sometimes you learn things. I've been a black belt for 13 years now. I still learn things from white belts sometimes. It's endless. You never stop learning. Sometimes you'll learn something, it's applicable, and then something counters it, and we can't use that anymore because people may know this. So it's like I said, it's a huge strategic, it's physical strategy at the ultimate level. Like you either win or you potentially, if you were fighting for your life, you could die. That's the thing.
I never thought of it from that sense. How often do you stretch?
Not enough. I've got a couple of clients I teach. I train, and they like to stretch at the end of the routine, so I'll stretch with them.
How long?
That's it.
Like an hour?
No,
45?
stretching.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah, do a whole body stretch in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Should stretch more. It'd be good if you could stretch every day. It's really relaxing. I always feel so much better after I stretch.
Oh, so much better.
It's one of those things you make compromises on in your life. How much time do you have to do the things that you need to get done and things that you want to do? And unfortunately, stretching has fallen off on that. And as I get older, it probably shouldn't, but it is, unfortunately. But yeah, I recommend you stretch if you can.
It helps in everything, not even jiu-jitsu, just everyday life stretching.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's one thing that one person can do to better themselves to becoming a jiu-jitsu athlete just at home before they walk into your studio? Is there anything that they can do? Sorry, do you have time? We're coming up on an hour here.
Yeah,
you got like another 10 minutes? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the biggest thing you should do is watch matches. Like I watch matches all the time, and I learn things that you may have a world champion who puts out a series of instructional things, and that thing that he's done to win the world championship may not be on his instructional thing. He does it, and I don't know whether he's not teaching on purpose or he's not thinking to teach it. But if you watch the fights, you slow it down, you back it up, and study. You can learn gems.
Okay.
Little things like that the best guys in the world are using that can make you good. And you may not be ready for it. Some of the things may be above what your conceptual, understanding of the sport is. So sometimes you'll see things and it doesn't make any sense to you. And sometimes I show people things and it's like trying to teach them Greek. But you have to show it to them, because if you don't, if you show it to them a year from now, it's still going to be, it may still be, trying to teach them Latin or Greek or something like that. But
Yeah.
if they see it and they see it again, the understanding will be a little bit higher, and they see it again, and eventually they'll get it. So the sooner you show it to them, the sooner they'll get it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, study at home, watch fights.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have you ever been to a UFC event?
Oh, multiple ones.
What
yeah.
are they?
So
What I just hear incredible things. What are they like? And where do you like to sit? Is my other question.
I've only ever been to one as a spectator, and I sat so far back. The very first one I went to, I didn't know it was a toss-up whether to watch the screen, the big screen, or watch the cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matt Serra was fighting on that
Yeah.
one, and it was. So yeah, it was. It was. I think it was in New Jersey. There were more fights in the audience than there were in the cage. And I think
That's what I mean by Montreal when everyone's out there fighting after.
I think that's kind of gone by the wayside. That was the early days of the sport. I
Yeah.
think that, like when I put on fights here, the crowd's almost like a corporate crowd. It's the athletes and corporate, so there's not really, you don't get fights in the stands.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Okay.
So most every fight I've seen, besides that one, just about I've been cage side for. So
Wow. Are you in Gavin's corner? Are you?
yeah, often
Are you?
I've been in Gavin's corner for all his fights.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I should have known that. I apologize.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. So I mean, even all the ECC fights I've put on, fights I've traveled to with other fighters to, the U.S. or other parts of Canada, I'm always cage side to watch them. So I've been spoiled. I've been able to watch the fights close up. For the
Wow.
most part, yeah.
Some of the things you must be able to see from being close up right there on the cage. Incredible.
Well, yeah, it's certainly it's a great. I mean, I've been to a couple of UFCs. It was UFC 200 and 202 as a guest of a friend, Matt, and we were cage side, like right against the cage for Conor McGregor's fight against Diaz and some great fights. Yeah, and
one or
Brock
two
Lesnar.
with McDavid or not McDavid.
It was 202, I believe, 200, 202. I forget which one it was.
But like their first fight or second fight?
Second fight.
Second fight.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Wow. That's wow.
Connor won. But I mean, we look back behind us, and there's NFL players, there's NBA players, movie stars sitting behind us. I'm like, wow, this is great.
That's incredible.
Those are great fights, and those were both in Las Vegas.
When you see guys like Conor McGregor and Diaz, and they're so far ahead in the game, they're great athletes and they're good at what they do. What do you see the separation from them to a guy that's trying to get to the position they're at? What's the difference?
Well,
I know it's a
there's
tough
several.
question.
Like, I'm going to use Gavin as an example.
Okay.
Gavin Tucker would be a prime example of the combination of things you need to go far in the sport. So first of all, he's physical. He's got the physicality that needs to be. He's gifted athletically.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of people like that, but then you have people who have drive to train, and you need that drive to get in there and train and push yourself, put yourself through hell, like every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. Gavin's biggest thing is he trained too much. I think now he's finally got a handle on that, but he a lot of people don't want to train that hard that much, and so the physicality, the drive to use that to train, and the intelligence, because you can be a physical specimen and know a certain few things and go far in the sport, and you see that in UFC. You see guys who are fighters, they can just they can get things done because of their athletic ability, but when you can combine that athletic ability, it's almost like I guess it would be like a character in a video game. You look at the different qualities they have. So if you have the intelligence to learn and to apply the techniques that are appropriate and that are current and that work, and you apply that with your physicality and your training drive to make them, so that you can get to a position where you've trained enough that they actually work. Yeah. Then you can go and fight at the highest levels. And that's kind of what Gavin has. And he's one of the few people I've ever met, and I've trained a lot of people who has that combination. And everybody has it to a certain extent. Some people have the drive, they'll train, but they don't have the intelligence or the compulsive, almost a compulsive disorder to study and train and learn. Yeah. To never, the grass growing to their feet. Yeah. So you get people who maybe can do that, but they don't have the physicality. They can be very, very smart in it, but don't have, so yeah, that to go to that level, you need you need that special combination, that mix.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like trying to get in the NHL. Like you can be a great athlete, but if you can't go to these, like now, you probably have to go to a hockey camp or a hockey school, to learn the skills to go with your athleticism to be a hockey player. And even then, you may not make it. You get things lurking around the corner like injuries, and sometimes life gets in the way. You need a job, you can't pay your rent. I know lots of stories of UFC athletes training their ass off, fighting at the top of the sport, and fucking broke.
Yeah.
Because they don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
That's the greatest crime in that sport, is for what they do, for how good they are, for the dedication. For, oh man, he made $50,000 for 15 minutes. No, he made $50,000 for training for a whole year. For he's putting his health on the line.
Yeah.
He's not just fighting. He's putting his health on the line.
So many things have to come together in order for it to make sense.
Absolutely.
For it to happen. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I loved having you here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Peter. What are you doing the rest of the day?
I have nothing until 4 o'clock. When I say nothing, I mean I've got paperwork and things like that.
Yeah, I know.
Banking and stuff. But nothing at the gym until 4 o'clock.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah, all right.
I'm dead serious though about coming over to the studio. If you're gonna give me some open arms, I'll come and I'll come.
I'm there every day, so 7 days a week.
All right.
Give me a call. We'll set something up.
All right.
All right.
Peter, once again, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate that. Everyone listening, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. What's today? Wednesday, hump day, halfway through the week. Weekend's almost there. Have fun, enjoy, stay safe. We are out. Peace.